The space around the Kepler system was quiet. It had been quiet for 300 years. Commander Zextar of the Krex Navy sat in his command chair aboard the battlecruiser Scales of Victory. His reptilian eyes watched the sensor screens that showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. Another boring patrol, his second officer Krimtok said with a hiss. Nothing ever happens out here on the rim. Zextar nodded. The outer systems were always peaceful. No pirates came this far from the trade routes. No rebels hid in these empty spaces. The Galactic Coalition controlled everything, and their 3 species lived in harmony. The Krex provided military strength, the crystal-like Vorthak handled technology and science, and the gas cloud Niphon managed resources and trade. Life was good in Coalition space. It had been good for 3 centuries. "Sir," the sensor officer called out suddenly. "I'm getting strange readings from Sector 7. Zextar turned his large head toward the young Krex at the sensor station. "What kind of readings?" "Space distortions. Something big is coming out of hyperspace." The commander felt his scales tighten with worry. "How big?" "Very big, sir. Multiple contacts. I count at least 50 ships, maybe more." Zextar stood up from his chair. In 300 years of Coalition rule, no one had fleets that large except the Coalition Navy itself. "Are they Coalition ships?" "No, sir. The signatures are all wrong. These ships don't match any known designs in our database." The main screen lit up as dozens of ships dropped out of hyperspace. They were massive, larger than anything in the Coalition fleet. Their hulls were a dark gray color that seemed to eat light. They had strange angles and weapon ports that looked different from Coalition technology. "By the ancient scales," Krimtok whispered. "What are those things?" Zextar had been in the Navy for 40 years. He had never seen ships like these. "Send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them we have unknown vessels in Kepler system. Request immediate backup." "Yes, sir." The unknown ships formed into a battle formation. They moved with perfect coordination, like they had done this many times before. Zextar counted them as they took positions. 67 ships, all of them larger than his battlecruiser. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship. Put it on screen." The main display changed to show the bridge of one of the alien ships. A bipedal creature stood in the center of the bridge. It had smooth skin, strange hair on its head, and 2 small eyes. It wore a dark uniform with symbols that meant nothing to Zextar. The creature spoke in perfect Coalition trade language. "This is Captain Lisa Grant of the United Earth ships. We are returning to reclaim what was taken from us." Zextar felt his blood turn cold. He knew that word from the old archives. Earth. It was mentioned in ancient records, stories that most people thought were just myths. Stories about a species called humans. "Unknown vessel," Zextar said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Commander Zextar of the Galactic Coalition Navy. You are in Coalition space. State your business here." The human called Lisa Grant smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Our business is simple, Commander. We're coming home." Home. These systems have belonged to the Coalition for over 200 years. "Wrong," Grant said. "These systems belong to humanity first. Your Coalition took them when we were forced to leave. Now we're back." Zextar felt confused. The old records mentioned humans, but they were just stories. Legends about a species that could fight and survive anything. Tales that parents told their children to make them behave. Humans weren't real. "I don't know what game you're playing," Zextar said, "but humans are myths. Old stories. They never existed." Captain Grant's smile became wider, showing white teeth. It reminded Zextar of the predators from his home world. "We're not myths, Commander. We're the reason your parents told you to be good at night. We're the monsters under your bed, and we've been waiting 300 years to come back." More ships began dropping out of hyperspace behind the first group. Hundreds of them. They filled the space around Kepler system like a metal cloud. Zextar had never seen so many warships in one place. "Sir," his sensor officer said in a shaking voice, "I count over 800 ships now. They're still coming. 800 ships. The entire Coalition Navy only had 1,200 ships spread across the galaxy. This human fleet was almost as large as their entire military. "This is impossible," Krimtok whispered. "Where did they come from?" Captain Grant seemed to hear the question somehow. "We've been out there in the dark between the stars, Commander, building, growing, getting stronger, learning about what you did to our people and our worlds." "Your people?" Zextar asked. "The humans you killed, the colonies you destroyed, the children you took for your experiments. Did you think we would forget? Did you think we would forgive?" Zextar felt his stomach drop. He had read some of the old military reports from 3 centuries ago. Reports about clearing out dangerous species from valuable worlds. Reports about taking specimens for study. He had thought they were talking about animals. "You're talking about the primitives," he said slowly. "The violent species we had to remove for galactic peace." Grant's eyes became cold and hard. "Primitives? Is that what you called us?" "We weren't primitive, Commander. We were explorers, scientists, families, and you murdered us for the crime of existing in space you wanted." The human fleet continued to grow. Over 1,000 ships now filled the system. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready. Zextar realized that his single battlecruiser was completely surrounded. "What do you want?" he asked. "Justice," Grant said, simply. "We want our worlds back. We want our people freed. We want the galaxy to remember that humans are real and we're not going away again. The Coalition will never surrender to you. We have thousands of ships across hundreds of worlds." "I know," Grant said. "We've been watching you for a long time. We know exactly how many ships you have, where they are, and how to destroy them. This isn't a negotiation, Commander. This is us telling you what's going to happen." Zextar looked at the massive human fleet surrounding his ship. Each vessel was larger and more advanced than anything the Coalition had built. Their weapons looked powerful enough to crack planets. "Surrender your ship," Grant continued. "Tell your people that the humans have returned. Tell them that the myths they thought were just stories are real, and we're coming for what's ours." The commander looked around his bridge at his frightened crew. Young Kreks who had grown up believing humans were just scary stories. Now they faced the reality that the monsters were real, and they had returned with a vengeance. Zextar reached for his communication controls with a shaking hand. The galaxy was about to learn that some myths were more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the Coalition fleet gather in the distance. 3,000 alien ships filled the space around the Vega system, their hulls reflecting the light of the twin stars. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 200 years. "Impressive," said Dr. Amy Collins, the fleet's chief scientist. She stood beside the admiral, studying the alien formations on the tactical display. "They responded faster than we expected." Jake nodded. "Fear makes people move quickly. They know we're not here to talk." The Coalition had pulled ships from across the galaxy to face the human fleet. Kreks battlecruisers with their thick armor plating, Vorthak crystal ships that sparkled like diamonds in space, Niphon cloud vessels that looked more like living creatures than machines, all of them ready to fight. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Coalition flagship." "Put it through." The main screen showed the bridge of a massive Kreks dreadnought. 3 figures stood together in the center. A large Kreks general with battle scars across his scales. A tall Vorthak whose crystal body pulsed with different colors. A Niphon whose gas form swirled in patterns that showed deep worry. The Kreks general spoke first. "I am General Thaxmore of the Coalition Defense Force. You will withdraw from Coalition space immediately or face the consequences." Jake smiled. "I'm Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. We're not withdrawing. We're taking back what you stole." The Vorthak's crystals turned red with anger. "Your species was violent and dangerous. We removed you for the good of all civilized life in the galaxy." "Civilized," Jake repeated the word slowly. "You call genocide civilized? You call slavery civilized? You call stealing our children civilized?" The Niphon's gas swirled faster. We did what was necessary for peace. Your peace, Dr. Collins said, stepping forward. Built on the bones of human colonies. Built on the labor of human slaves. Built on lies about what we were. Jake studied the three alien leaders. Do you want to know what we learned in our 3 centuries of exile? We learned that you're not apex predators like us. The Kreks evolved from plant eaters. The Vorthak from filter feeders. The Niphon from scavengers. You're prey species pretending to be hunters. General Thaxmore's scales flared with anger. We are not prey. We have ruled this galaxy for 300 years. You've managed this galaxy, Jake corrected. There's a difference. Management isn't the same as ruling. You're about to learn what real rulers look like. The coalition leaders looked at each other. Jake could see the fear in their movements. They had spent centuries telling themselves that humans were just violent primitives. They had convinced themselves that their victory was proof of their superiority. Now they faced the truth. We outnumber you 3-1, General Thaxmore said. Your myths and legends won't save you from mathematics. Jake's smile became wider, showing his teeth. Mathematics. Let me give you some math. You have 3,000 ships. We have 1,500. But here's the number that matters. You're fighting to keep what you stole. We're fighting to take back what's ours. That changes everything. Attack formations. The Admiral ordered his fleet. All ships, weapons free. The human ships moved like living things. They didn't follow the rigid formations that coalition tacticians expected. Instead, they flowed through space like schools of fish, each ship responding to the others in perfect harmony. Captain Ben Carter led the first wave of human fighters. His squadron of 30 small ships dove toward the coalition lines like hawks, attacking pigeons. The alien fighters moved to intercept them, but the humans were already gone, dancing between the larger ships with impossible grace. Remember your training, Ben broadcast to his pilots. These ships were built by committee. Our ships were built by survivors. Show them the difference. The human fighters tore through the coalition formations. Their weapons were precise, hitting weak points that the aliens didn't even know existed. Where coalition weapons scattered their fire across large areas, human weapons struck like surgical knives. Captain Nancy Lopez commanded the destroyer UES Vengeance. She watched as a massive Krex battleship turned its guns toward her smaller vessel. The alien ship was 10 times larger, with armor thick enough to stop most weapons. Target their weapon ports, she ordered. Concentrated fire. The Vengeance's guns spoke with deadly accuracy. Instead of trying to punch through the battleship's armor, they destroyed its ability to fight back. Within minutes, the massive alien ship was drifting helpless, its weapons destroyed and its engines dead. Admiral Morrison watched the battle unfold on his tactical screens. The coalition ships fought bravely, but they fought like prey animals. They stayed in tight formations, trying to protect each other. They fired at maximum range, avoiding close combat. They followed their training manuals exactly. The human ships fought like predators. They separated the alien formations, isolated individual targets, and destroyed them with ruthless efficiency. They took risks that made coalition commanders panic. They used tactics that no civilized species would ever consider. Sir, the sensor officer reported. Coalition casualties are at 60%. Our losses are less than 5%. Dr. Collins shook her head in amazement. They really don't understand what we are. They're fighting us like we're another prey species. They are prey species, Jake said. They always have been. For 300 years, they've lived in a galaxy without real predators. They forgot what predators look like. The battle turned into a slaughter. Coalition ships exploded or surrendered as human forces swept through their lines. The alien admirals tried desperate maneuvers, but nothing worked. Their weapons couldn't penetrate human armor. Their tactics couldn't match human flexibility. Their courage couldn't overcome human fury. General Thaxmore's voice crackled over the communication channel. We surrender. Please, we surrender. No, Jake said simply. You don't get to surrender. You had 3 centuries to make peace with what you did. You chose to pretend we never existed instead. The human fleet continued its attack. They destroyed ship after ship with mechanical precision. No anger, no passion, just the cold efficiency of apex predators removing a threat. When it ended, the space around Vega was filled with debris. 3,000 coalition ships had been reduced to scrap metal and floating wreckage. The human fleet remained almost untouched, their ships moving through the battlefield like sharks through blood. Admiral Morrison looked at the destruction on his screens. Send a message to every coalition world. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humans are back and we remember everything. Dr. Collins watched the last coalition ship explode. They'll never be the same after this. Their entire world view just collapsed. Good, Jake said. They spent 300 years believing they were the dominant species in this galaxy. Today they learned the truth. They were just keeping our worlds warm until we came home. The human fleet regrouped and prepared to move deeper into coalition space. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. And across the galaxy, alien worlds watched their communication screens in terror as they learned that the myths had returned with a vengeance. General Kate Williams walked through the streets of Nexus Prime, the former capital of the Galactic Coalition. Her boots echoed off the crystalline walkways as alien civilians hurried past, their heads down and eyes avoiding contact. 6 months had passed since the human fleet had conquered coalition space, and the galaxy was still learning what it meant to live under human rule. "Ma'am," Sergeant Danny Price said, jogging up beside her. "The Vorthak Council is requesting another meeting about food distribution." Kate stopped walking and looked at her aide. "What's wrong with the current system?" "They say it's not fair. The Vorthak need different minerals than the Kreks or Nifon. They want specialized treatment." "Tell them no," Kate said simply. "Everyone gets the same rations. If they don't like it, they can figure out how to make it work." Danny nodded and made a note on his electronic pad. The young Marine had been with Kate since the invasion began. He had seen her make 1,000 decisions like this one, each time choosing efficiency over comfort. They continued walking toward the government complex that now served as human headquarters. Alien workers cleared debris from the streets while human soldiers watched from street corners. The occupation was complete and total, but it was also strangely peaceful. "General," a voice called out. Kate turned to see Commander Rick Hayes approaching. His uniform was dusty from his recent trip to Vorthak Prime, the crystal being's homeworld. "How did it go?" Kate asked. Rick shook his head. "Same as always. They want to negotiate everything. They presented me with a 3-hour mathematical proof explaining why they should get better treatment than the other species." "What did you tell them?" "I told them that humans don't negotiate with conquered peoples. We tell them what to do and they do it." Kate smiled. "How did they take that?" "About as well as you'd expect. Their crystals turned all sorts of angry colors. But they'll comply. They always do." The 3 humans entered the government building that had once housed the Coalition Parliament. Now it served as the headquarters for the Terran Provisional Government. Human flags hung from the walls, and Marine guards stood at every entrance. Dr. Patricia Stone was waiting for them in the main conference room. She had been studying the alien population since the conquest began, trying to understand how to manage 3 different species that had never been under human control. "General," Patricia said as they sat down, "I have the latest reports from all 3 homeworlds." "Go ahead." Patricia opened her files. "The Kreks are adapting the best. Their military structure translates well to our occupation system. They understand orders and chain of command. Productivity on Kreks worlds is at 90% of pre-war levels. Good. What about the others?" "The Vorthak are struggling. They're used to making decisions through collective analysis and mathematical consensus. Our direct command structure confuses them. Productivity is at 60%. Kate frowned. "That's not acceptable. What do you recommend?" "Give them simple, clear orders with exact specifications. Don't ask them to interpret or adapt. Just tell them exactly what to do and when to do it." "And the Nifon?" Patricia's expression grew more serious. "They're the most difficult. Gas-based life forms think very differently than solid species. They're used to flowing around problems rather than confronting them directly. Many of them are trying to hide in deep space. Commander Hayes leaned forward. How many are missing? Hard to say with a species that can disperse into individual molecules, but we estimate about 30% of their population has gone into hiding. Kate stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Krex workers rebuilding damaged buildings while Vorthak technicians repaired communication arrays. It looked peaceful, but she knew it was the peace of the conquered. What's the status of human survivors? She asked. Captain Tony Martinez had been quiet during the briefing. Now he spoke up. We've located and freed over 2 million humans from labor camps and research facilities. Most are in good health, considering what they've been through. What about the children? Tony's expression darkened. The ones taken for genetic experiments are damaged. The aliens didn't understand human development. They treated human children like lab animals. Kate felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. How many? About 50,000 children over the past 3 centuries. Most didn't survive the experiments. We've found maybe 3,000 still alive. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what the Coalition had done to human prisoners, but hearing the numbers made it real. 50,000 children stolen from their families and used as test subjects. What do the aliens say about this? Kate asked. Patricia answered. They claim it was necessary for scientific advancement. They say they didn't know humans were truly sentient because we were so violent. Violent, Kate repeated the word slowly. They call us violent while they're experimenting on children. It gets worse, Tony continued. We found records of what they called behavioral modification experiments. They were trying to breed the aggression out of captured humans. Rick slammed his fist on the table. They were trying to domesticate us. Yes, Tony said. Like we were dangerous animals that needed to be tamed. Kate turned back to face the room. How are the freed humans adapting? Better than expected, Tony replied. Most want to work in the occupation forces. They want to help manage their former captors. I can understand that feeling, Kate said. But we need to be careful. Revenge is satisfying, but it's not efficient. We're not here to punish the aliens, we're here to rule them. Danny raised his hand tentatively. Ma'am, if I may ask, what's the long-term plan? Are we going to occupy these worlds forever? Kate looked at the young Marine. Occupation implies that this is temporary, that someday we'll leave and let them govern themselves again. That's not what this is, Sergeant. What is it then? Integration, Patricia said before Kate could respond. We're not occupying Coalition space, we're absorbing it into human space. These aren't alien worlds under human control. They're human worlds with alien populations. The distinction was important. Occupation was temporary. Integration was permanent. The aliens had 300 years to prove they could rule responsibly, Kate explained. They used that time to commit genocide, conduct experiments on children, and convince themselves that humans were myths. They failed the test of civilization. So, now we rule them, Rick said. Now we rule them, Kate agreed. Not because we want to, but because they prove they can't rule themselves. The galaxy needs management, and humans are the only species qualified to provide it. Danny looked confused. But they built an entire civilization. The Coalition lasted 3 centuries. They built a bureaucracy, Kate corrected. There's a difference. Bureaucracies manage existing systems. Civilizations create new ones. When faced with a real challenge, their entire system collapsed in 6 months. Patricia nodded. The psychological profiles support that conclusion. All 3 species are fundamentally reactive rather than proactive. They respond to problems rather than preventing them. They negotiate rather than decide. They're followers, not leaders. And humans? Danny asked. Humans are apex predators. Kate said simply. We don't just react to our environment. We shape it. We don't just solve problems. We eliminate them. We don't just survive challenges. We dominate them. The meeting continued for another hour as they discussed supply lines, production quotas, and population management. It was the boring but necessary work of governing a galaxy. When it ended, Kate walked back to her office alone. She sat at her desk and looked at the reports from across human-controlled space. 47 human worlds rebuilding their civilizations. 300 alien worlds learning to live under human rule. Millions of humans freed from captivity. Billions of aliens discovering what it meant to be ruled by apex predators. The galaxy was changing, and it was changing permanently. The coalition was history. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would last as long as humans existed to enforce it. President Susan Baker stood at the podium in the rebuilt Earth Parliament, looking out at the assembled representatives from across human space. 2 years had passed since the return, and the galaxy had been transformed beyond recognition. Where, once there had been the Galactic Coalition, now there was the human Terran Empire stretching across 400 star systems. "Fellow humans," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the Great Hall. "Today marks the 2nd anniversary of our return to the galaxy. Today we celebrate not just our victory but our future." The audience applauded, but Susan could see the weight of responsibility in their faces. These were the leaders who had helped rebuild human civilization from the ashes of coalition oppression. They knew that ruling a galaxy was harder than conquering one. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in the front row, his uniform decorated with the medals of victory. Beside him sat General Kate Williams, still dusty from her inspection of the outer colonies. These were the people who had made the impossible possible. "When we left this galaxy 3 centuries ago," Susan continued, "we were refugees, survivors, of genocide, carrying the seeds of humanity into the dark between stars. We promised ourselves that we would return, and we have kept that promise." In the alien sections of the hall, representatives from the Krex, Vorthak, and Niphon sat quietly. They wore simple gray uniforms that marked them as members of the Terran Civil Service. No longer rulers of their own species, they had become administrators in the human empire. Kex Moran, the former Krex general who had once commanded coalition forces, now served as director of logistics for the Terran government. His scales had lost their bright military coloring, fading to the dull gray of a civil servant. He listened to the human president with the patience of the defeated. "Our empire is built on different principles than the coalition," Susan said. "We do not rule through committee or consensus. We rule through competence and will. We do not negotiate with reality. We shape it to our needs." The transformation of the galaxy had been complete and ruthless. Human engineers had redesigned alien cities to accommodate human needs. Human teachers had established schools where alien children learned human history and human values. Human doctors had studied alien biology to understand how to keep the 3 species healthy and productive. Dr. Amy Collins, now Director of Alien Affairs, had overseen much of this transformation. She sat in the scientific section, taking notes on the president's speech. Her research had revealed that the 3 alien species were actually remarkably adaptable, as long as they had clear leadership and simple instructions. "The Krex excel at logistics and organization," she had written in her latest report. "Give them detailed orders and they will follow them perfectly. The Vorthak are natural analysts and technicians. They can solve any problem if you tell them exactly what result you want. The Niphon are excellent at resource management and environmental control. They can optimize any system if you explain the goals clearly." Captain Ben Carter, now Admiral of the Outer Fleet, commanded the shipyards that ringed every major star system. His forces built not just to control the current galaxy, but to expand beyond it. Human ships were already exploring the void between galaxies, looking for new worlds to claim and new species to encounter. "We have learned that the universe is vast and full of life," Susan told the assembly. "Some of that life may be friendly. Some may be hostile. All of it will learn to respect human authority, just as our current subjects have learned." The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably at these words. They had learned to respect human authority, but it had not been easy. The transition from rulers to subjects had been traumatic for all 3 species. The Vorthak had struggled the most. Their crystal bodies were built for complex thought and mathematical analysis, but humans rarely asked for their opinions. They were given problems to solve and expected to solve them efficiently. Many had found purpose in this new role, but others remained bitter about their lost independence. The Niphon had adapted by becoming invisible. Their gas-based bodies allowed them to work in environments that humans found uncomfortable, and they had carved out a niche managing atmospheric systems and resource extraction. They stayed out of human sight and rarely caused problems. The Kreks had found their new role most easily. Their military background translated well to civilian administration, and many had risen to positions of responsibility within the human bureaucracy. They understood hierarchy and chain of command concepts that came naturally to humans as well. "Our expansion continues," Susan announced. "Construction begins next month on the first transgalactic colony ships. Within 50 years, human civilization will span multiple galaxies. Within a century, we will have established contact with civilizations beyond our current understanding." Admiral Morrison stood and addressed the assembly. "The fleet is ready for whatever we find out there. We have learned from our experience with the Coalition. We will not be caught off guard again. We will not allow any species to threaten human existence." The military had changed significantly since the conquest. Human forces now included integrated alien units, trained and equipped to human standards. Krek's troops served as heavy infantry, their natural armor and strength making them ideal for assault operations. Vorthak technicians maintained the complex systems that kept human ships operational. Niphon scouts could infiltrate environments that would kill solid-based life forms. Captain Tony Martinez, now General of Planetary Defense, oversaw the integration of these alien forces. His mixed-species units had proven remarkably effective, combining human tactical flexibility with alien specialized abilities. "We are not just conquerors," Susan said, her voice growing stronger. "We are civilization builders. We are bringing order to chaos, efficiency to waste, purpose to confusion. The galaxy is better under human rule than it ever was under coalition management." The statistics supported her claim. Industrial production was up 40% across all former coalition worlds. Scientific research had accelerated dramatically under human direction. Crime rates had dropped to almost zero. Life expectancy for all three alien species had increased under human medical care. But the most significant change was psychological. The three species had stopped trying to make decisions for themselves. They looked to human leadership for guidance on everything from personal relationships to career choices. They had become, in essence, domesticated. Dr. Collins had noted this trend in her research. "The alien species have developed what we might call learned helplessness," she had written. "They have become dependent on human decision-making. This is not necessarily a bad thing, as it ensures stability and prevents rebellion, but it does mean that they will never again be truly independent." Susan concluded her speech with a vision of the future. "We will build an empire that spans the stars. We will create a civilization that lasts for millennia. We will ensure that humanity never again faces the threat of extinction at the hands of lesser species." The applause was thunderous. Humans cheered for their bright future while aliens clapped politely for their new reality. After the ceremony, Susan stood on the balcony of the Parliament building, looking out at the city below. Human children played in parks while alien workers maintained the gardens. Human students attended universities while alien professors taught technical subjects. Human families shopped in markets while alien merchants sold goods from across the galaxy. It was a peaceful scene, but Susan knew it was a peace built on absolute power. The aliens were not citizens of the human empire. They were subjects, living at human sufferance and working for human benefit. They had freedom within limits, rights within boundaries, dignity within constraints. Admiral Morrison joined her on the balcony. "It's everything we hoped for when we left," he said quietly. "Yes," Susan agreed. "We promised our children that we would return and reclaim our place in the galaxy. We have kept that promise. And our grandchildren will inherit a galaxy where humans are never again threatened by alien ambition." Susan nodded. "The age of human dominance has begun. It will last as long as we have the will to maintain it." Above them, human ships patrolled the space lanes, their crews alert for any sign of rebellion or external threat. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, but it was also under human control. The myths had returned and they ruled supreme.